right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Impact Stories Live. My name is Amy Stouter. I'm a member of the Impact short-term team here at Calvary. And I want to say welcome to all our friends joining on Zoom. We will have some 10 minutes of Q&A at the end. And if you are on Zoom and have a question, just unmute yourselves and ask away. We do have a speaker here, so we'll be able to hear you. Today we are joined by Jordan Dornbush, who is the son of Pastor Vaughn and Martha Dornbush. And today, joined by Sam Gibbous. Are you a graduate of Bethel?
Yes, I am a
Graduate of Bethel University. Jordan grew up here at Calvary, of course, and now works for FCA, also known as Fellowship of Christian Athletes. Has been doing that since 2015. 4 years in Chicago and now 2 years here in Minneapolis. So if you do have questions, we're going to wait till the end. And Jordan's just going to tell us what he's been up to and how things have been progressing in these last interesting months. Yes. So please welcome Jordan and Sam.
Appreciate it. So yeah, I'm going to kind of quickly just go over, what the ministry is, what we're doing in the city. And then we'll get a chance to hear from Sam because that's what we want to do. So, I like she said, Amy shared, been with FCA for 6 years, 2 years here in Minneapolis. Have a chance to work with coaches and athletes at high school campuses in Minneapolis. So share a little bit about. So this is me, my two daughters, and my wife. Just so you know, so they're here and they're an awesome part of the ministry. We have guys over to the house a bunch, and they get to kind of be a part of our family and our ministry from our home. And then we're pregnant. We have our third daughter on the way, so that's very exciting for us. And thank you. And then this is Kyle Fox. So me and Kyle are both full-time on FCA staff. So we work together in Minneapolis. We're the only two staff who are in Minneapolis right now. So we do a lot of stuff together working in the high schools. He actually coaches football and does a lot of work at North Minneapolis High School. And then I kind of bounce around between a few different high schools. So that's, you can. This is just a map so you can kind of get a bit of a layout. So this is Minneapolis. These are the public high schools within Minneapolis. On the north side, you have Patrick Henry, Thomas Edison, and North. And then they obviously on the south side, Southwest Washburn, South, and Roosevelt. So most of our time is spent on the north side. Kyle spends a lot of time in North Minneapolis High School, and I kind of bounce between Edison, North, and Henry. We've done some stuff with South and Roosevelt, but majority of our time is spent serving on the north side. And Sam, as he served for the last 2 years, has spent most of his time in North High School. So, like I said, me and Kyle are the only full-time staff, but there's a lot of kids, a lot of coaches, a lot of work to be done. So we brought some Bethel football players in on it with us. I've had the opportunity to coach football at Bethel University. It's been a huge blessing. And so these are the guys from Bethel football team who have volunteered with us in the city. So when they sign up to want to be a part of it, we take them through a training, try and prepare them as best we can to be going into the schools and working with high school students. We talk through, okay, if I'm sitting with a high school kid, how do I communicate the gospel clearly? How do I preach? How do I share my story? We talk through even cultural things, because obviously stepping into the city for some of the guys is a big cultural jump. So talking through and sharing, how can you do well stepping into a new culture? So we go through 4 different training sessions with all the guys. These are all the guys who have volunteered this last year. So this is a picture we took at the last training we did with them right before they're about to jump into schools and start serving. So great group of guys who, give of their time. They're doing college football and they're doing school and they're giving of their time to be able to come and serve in the city. So as they've come into the city, they've been plugged in a lot of ways, right? We've helped with mentorship at some of the high schools with some of the high school students. We've helped with Bible studies, running Bible studies with students. We've helped with weight room at times. There was at Edison High School specifically, they had a need where helping run the weight room. And so we stepped in and served in that way. And through that, still had an opportunity to get to know some of the students and get to build mentorship relationships through that. So this is one instance, taking guys out to Bethel to hang out for a day, and then we got Canes. So it's just, for us, like I always tell the Bethel guys, the goal is life on life, right? So it's not the Bible study is a good thing, and the mentorship's a good thing, and the helping out weight room is a good thing. But at the end of the day, we do those once a week, every week, to build relationships, and then use those relationships off of campus, off of our Bible study time, taking them out to eat, taking them out for a lift, taking them out to Bethel to hang out, building more like we're doing life together, discipleship relationship, and not just, oh, well, we're seeing each other once a week at Bible study, or we're seeing each other once a week in the weight room. So we get a chance to do this with the guys, and it's a ton of fun. And then every year we do a retreat. So we take the guys out to Camp Lebanon. Great time to get the guys out of the city, out of their environment, and into a new place where they can be kids, right? And get away from some of maybe the stress that they're experiencing in their community and their homes, and just be kids and have fun. And we play broom ball and go tubing and have a great time. So Sam's been able to be a part of that the last 2 years, which has been an awesome blessing. So this is a picture of Sam's small group. He had a chance along with Matthew Feldick to mentor 3 or 4 guys from North Minneapolis High School, and they would get together once a week, grab a meal, go dig into God's word, and do some learning. So then now we're can get to the main event to hear from Sam about a little bit about his group, his experience mentoring those guys, and kind of things he's learned from being a part of this for the last 2 years. So is that on?
I'm not sure if it's on or not. I mean, I can just take.
Yeah, we can just pass it. All right, you go to the next one. So we're gonna just ask Sam a few questions, and he'll get a chance to share. So what are 2 things that you've learned serving in Minneapolis with FCA?
Thank you, Dornbush. I think the first thing that I learned, and this is something that Coach Dornbush echoed to us in our training sessions leading up to serving at North for me, is just because it's different doesn't mean it's wrong. That's something that Coach Dornbush would always say. Obviously, my upbringing is completely different than the students that I was engaging with. I'm from Elk River, 45 minutes north of here. And so many of my friends, many of the people that I engaged with were different, quite frankly, than the inner city. And I had a completely different upbringing than those kids. And I think our tendency as people is to look at other people's situations. And if their perspective is different than ours, we can get a knee-jerk reaction to think, okay, that's wrong, right? My perspective has to be the right perspective. And that's not the case at all. Mine's not right, theirs isn't right. Mine's not wrong, theirs isn't wrong. And I think now looking back in hindsight, I'm grateful for what they taught me because they had a unique perspective and I learned and grew from it. And then the second thing that I learned was I initially came into my time with serving FCA thinking it was going to be a mentor-mentee relationship. Hopefully I'll be able to pour into these kids and make an impact. And I hope that I was able to do that. But now looking back, I realized it actually ended up being a mentee-mentor relationship where they taught me more than I could ever teach them. And I grew so much through the 2 years that I was able to serve with these kids, not by anything special they said, but just by being in community with them and being around them. And so that was another cool thing that I learned through FCA in my time.
You know, the next one. So did your perceptions about the city change after serving with FCA, and how so?
Yeah, completely. I think that our media and culture and society gives us one idea of what the inner city looks like, and it could not be further from the truth. And what's sad is with that perception, a lot of times a barrier then gets created between us and the inner city, and fear comes out of that. So then we don't ever want to serve and be the hands and feet of Jesus in a space where we really should be. And so I think through my time with serving these kids, I realized, man, everything I hear in the news, and yeah, there is some realities behind some of the things that are happening in the inner city. I'm not saying there's not, but most of the time it's just not true. And until you actually enter that space, you don't realize that.
What is your favorite memory with the students?
Yeah, my favorite memory is probably the same one as Coach Dornbush, going up to Camp Lebanon and just spending an extended weekend up there. So normally, like Coach was alluding to, the structure is every single week we get dinner with the students. So we're able to be in community, have conversations with them. But then one time out of the year, we go up to Camp Lebanon, have 3 days to just be in community with these kids. And the biggest thing for me that I saw, and Coach had talked to this a little bit, is a lot of these kids have never left the city. A lot of these kids do not get to go up north. Some of them have never been on lakes before, and that's something that just all of us take for granted. And so when they're able to leave the inner city and be kids again, it's such a cool experience to be able to just be witness to that. And then that leads to amazing conversations that can come out of it, and they grow in so many different ways. And so, yeah, I think besides getting beat in broom ball by coach and I love the guy, but he was the director up at Camp Lebanon, and he's obviously playing broom ball basically every single day. And so we would play broom ball, and I'm not the best at it. And he was put on the other team and just destroyed my team every single time. So I really didn't have a chance to win. I'm a pretty competitive guy, so that was a bummer. But everything other than that was great, and it's always a great weekend too.
Yeah. So these are two of the students that he got a chance to pour into this last school year, Jamario and Josh. So you could share, just a little bit about them, and then how you've seen one or each of them grow in the last year, get a chance to meet with you.
Yeah, I'll start with Jamario, and really these two people, Coach Dornbush know this is the tale of two people, right? Yeah. Jamario is the energetic, personable kid that's always asking questions, and that's how we really went from the day I met him. That's how we started out. And for Jamario, what was so cool is I entered into his life at an interesting season, right? When he was a senior in high school and just about to transition into college or whatever life looked like beyond high school, and that can come with a lot of stress and anxiety. And so to be able to enter that space and hopefully give him some wisdom on graduation and what does college look like? Is college an option? Is football maybe an option? That was really, really cool. And then also I think to be able to just process different emotions he was going through, because one of his biggest dreams was wanting to play college football. I think whenever you play high school football, a dream is always, okay, can I play college football? And so spring of this last year, God closed that door. He wasn't able to be given that opportunity to play college football. And so to enter that space and have a conversation with him around that. Okay, how is God moving here? What does this look like? Why is he closing this door? And now to look back on it and see another door that God opened up. He's not playing football, but he's going to be wrestling in college. And so God closed one door and opened up another door. And it was cool to be in a valley moment of his life and to walk him through that, but also then to be kind of on a mountaintop moment and to be able to rejoice with him in that too. Yeah. And then with Josh, like I said, he's the opposite of Jamario. So I think the first couple of times that we were all together, Josh didn't even say a word. He didn't ask any questions. He wasn't engaging in conversation. And I think in large part because for these kids, trust is a huge thing. Their life in a lot of times is marked by inconsistency, right? Single parent households, it's a chaotic environment. And so it's very, very hard to trust people. And for Josh, it was tough to do this because he didn't know, okay, is Sam going to come back week in and week out? Is he going to be consistent in my life? And as I kept coming back, we kept getting dinner, 2, 3, 4, 5 months down the road. By the end of our time together, Josh was just as energetic and personable as Jamario, and he was super open and led to, engaging questions and amazing conversation. And he grew me a ton as a person through that. So I think the maturation from where Josh started to where he ended was really, really cool.
Yeah, for sure. Appreciate it. All right, so you have graduated from Bethel in the real world, have a full-time job now.
Yeah.
So what's one thing for volunteering you'd want to stay with you as you're kind of transitioning?
Yeah, I want to honor Coach Dornbush with my answer here. I hope I always have a servant heart like Coach Dornbush. He exemplifies that. He's so good at that. And he's been gifted with that, seriously. He enters that space every single day and he loves kids. That's what he does. He loves kids and he mentors kids. And so I pray that whatever season of life I am, however chaotic it gets, I never lose sight of the fact that I need to always have a servant heart. I need to enter those spaces and try and be, to the best of my ability, the hands and feet of Jesus, which Coach Dornbush does such an amazing job at doing.
Appreciate that. Yeah, you can. So we're going to open up for questions from you guys really quick here. But one thing I do want to say about Sam, he was talking about trust, right? And consistency and building that trust with the students. And sometimes you don't even see that happening. Like you think, oh, I'm going to Culver's and grabbing a meal, but you're doing that over and over and over again and building that trust. And then maybe one time you've gotten to that point where that kid is ready and you might not know it, you don't see it. And all of a sudden he opens up about something going on at home or going on in his life. And you're like, whoa, where, like, this is where I want to be, in a space where I can minister to his heart and his hurts. But I would have never gotten there if it wasn't for those times that felt like, oh, maybe nothing's happening. We're just eating and talking and doing life. But I really want to speak to his consistency. So our first meeting was October 21st. And almost every week since then has had opportunity to sit down with students, love on students, care for them. And so just a testament to who he is and the man he is. So really, really proud of you, and appreciate it. All right. So we can open up for questions. Any questions from anybody here or in Zoom? So.
How do you pay for all this food?
That is a great question. So through donors. So obviously FCA is a not-for-profit ministry. So for my salary, I fundraise to, you know, support me and my family. And then also for meals. So Sam, we love you to death, man. And I didn't want him to, he's in college. He's and for all the guys, they're figuring out school and all that. So they don't pay for any of the meals. They text me the receipt when you're done.
Yeah, and trust me, the kids love to eat as well too. So it's like, oh, you guys are paying for it? I'm gonna, get 5 extra items. So it's gonna be over $100.
Yeah.
So he got some probably shocking text messages of the receipts afterwards.
Yeah. We had some, but yeah. So on a Wednesday night or a Thursday night, I'll get 5 or 6 text messages from Bethel guys of receipts of them taking their kids out and the kids that they're mentoring. And that's a blessing for me, because it means kids are getting ministered to and I don't have to be the one, and Kyle doesn't have to be the one. Because I've been there where it's like, if a kid's getting loved on, it's going to be me. And that's a lot of pressure and a lot of time away from my family. So having these guys to be able to step into that role and love on students, more can happen, more ministry. And it's a blessing when I receive those receipts, because I know what happened and what took place during those meals. And all those students that get a chance to sit down with a guy who is consistent, who loves the Lord and who cares for them. So yeah, and then we get a chance to reimburse them. So yeah, but it's all through donations, through generous donors, and through donating to FCA working in Minneapolis. So.
Or now that you've been doing this for 2 school years, has the administration and coaches and teachers opened up more to you and what you're doing?
Yeah, definitely. And it's the same thing with trust, right? It's building that trust at the schools too, because they have a similar, from real hurts or real pains. Like, they're used to people coming and going. They're used to people being inconsiderate. They're used to people, even grants, like, come in, grant money runs out, okay, we're gone. So I've definitely seen, as we've been working at the high schools with coaches, with administration, we haven't been able to be around as much as we'd like with COVID, but we've definitely seen trust grow. And, coaches who used to be like, because not all of them are believers, some of them we're there serving, and they're excited about us being there because we're meeting a felt need, something that they really need help with. But the reality is, some of those coaches, it's like, they're excited because of them seeing us continue to grow, come. So it's been fun to see some coaches who were, I don't know about this, you fellowship of Christian athletes, you got Christian in the name, I'm not sure. And then now, like, excited when we're around, excited when the Bethel guys are around, excited that we're here for the kids, and they know our heart is in the right spot. So that's a huge piece.
Some of these kids in other sports besides football that you're working with?
Yeah, definitely. So, especially at North, it's a smaller high school, about 400 students. So a lot of the football guys are the wrestling players and are the, track and baseball. And so, we even got to experience that with figuring out schedules, trying to meet with students. So that's, something that's been fun. It's been fun to be able to go to, COVID stopped some of it, but be able to go to some wrestling, go to some basketball games and support the students that we're mentoring. So, but yeah, they end up, kind of doing a little bit of everything.
Are there schools besides North that are involved in this?
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, the question, yeah. The question was, are there schools other than North that are involved? So yeah, in Minneapolis, we spend the majority of our time at Edison, Patrick Henry, and North, on the north side of the city. We've done some stuff with South. Their head football coach is an awesome man of God. Love working with him. And then we've done some at Roosevelt as well. But the majority of our time spent on the north side in those three schools.
Do you have players besides Bethel players involved?
We are going to. We're getting there. That's a great question. So we've been talking with some football coaches at Northwestern. And so that's in the works. We've talked with the head basketball coach at North Central University in Minneapolis. So we want to get more schools, more people involved, and we've definitely started down that path. So
Are some of your graduates volunteering as they go off to college?
Yeah, so he said, are some of the graduates from the high schools volunteering as they go off to college? So I would love for that. I mean, that's definitely, I think, in the works. It's something that kind of takes time to the students that we've poured into get to that age and they're ready to turn around and pour back. But yeah, that's definitely something that we'd be open to and would love to do. And then our volunteers who graduate from college still gonna help out.
We'll see. That's a question of Coach Dornbush allows the platform.
Yeah.
I would love to.
One cool thing about it that for especially Sam, but all the groups, it's like, I mean, it's a relationship, it's a friendship at this point. You know, FCA, you know, was a platform for it, but at this point, it has nothing to do with FCA. It's Sam Gibbs and his relationship with Jamario and Josh and his influence in their lives and the opportunity he has to speak into their lives. And so for him, it's like, well, those relationships will continue.
Yeah.
You could, you know, give him a call, shoot him a text, you know, grab a meal on your dollar this time, but
slow down. One thing at a time.
but so that's part of the cool thing about doing it with the life on life discipleship, because you build a genuine relationship and those last for long beyond FCA or me or Kyle. So yes.
So once the students graduate from high school and go on to college, maybe hopefully go on to college, is there another branch of FCA that was only with the college population?
So there is
Please repeat the question.
yes, the question is there a branch of FCA that is involved at colleges that maybe students could be involved in after graduating and going off to college? So FCA is huge on college campuses. I mean, FCA is huge as an organization. There's about 2,000 staff all over the nation. But even here in Minnesota, we have staff who are full-time college ministry, and they do ministry at college campuses, run FCA at college campuses. And I mean, you could even share more about that. You probably know more about what's going on at the college campus than I do.
I can. I'm Glenn Martin, and I used to be the state director for FCA, so I know a little bit about what he's speaking. There is a college ministry right here in the Twin Cities with a guy by the name of David Melms, and FCA is partnering with Athletes in Action. That's been big time at the University of Minnesota and schools all around the country, and they have come together rather than compete for the attention of coaches and athletes. And so they're in basically up and down Snelling Avenue, ministering to athletes and coaches as well. And coaches play a big part in the lives of the athletes, of course. And so to get them engaged with growing in the word, to be an apprentice, to be a disciple, that filters into how they coach. And that has a big influence on the athletes. So that's a real viable ministry that we could talk a lot about too at some point, but that's a great question.
Thanks.
Came in a little late, so I did hear about the ministry in Minneapolis. Is there any activity in St. Paul?
So there actually is, the question is there any activity in St. Paul with FCA? So we have a FCA staff member who's in St. Paul, who works at St. Paul Johnson. But part of it is just, who we have on staff and how much we can stretch. So even in Minneapolis, we're looking to hire new staff, full-time staff with FCA in Minneapolis and also in St. Paul. But right now in St. Paul, we have a full-time staff member who works at St. Paul Johnson. And if you have questions for Sam too, he would love to answer them, so.
What's your job?
The question was, what's my job? So I work for a consulting firm in White Bear Lake. I'm in a sales role there. So I started about a month ago. I was talking to Coach Dornbush. Definitely a different pace of life from college in many ways. I kind of miss my freedom a little bit, but there's pros and cons of each. So, yep, I work at sorry.
What are you selling?
I'm selling, so it's kind of complex. So we do organizational development and we sell a platform for other executive coaches and their companies to use that platform with our material. So I'm kind of driving that side of the business and selling that, or attempting to, trying to.
I have another question for Sam. Talk about your experience playing football at Bethel.
Yeah, so the question was to talk about my experience playing football at Bethel. Well, I think the best way I could talk about it was to explain to you the situation I was in last fall. So I came in last fall as a senior, expecting to have my senior year, and you put a lot of expectation into that and what that'll look like. And in college, it's even more, much more commitment than high school, obviously. And then COVID hits and your whole season gets canceled. And so everything you put into the 3 years before leading up to that year seems just like, it's a disarray. And obviously everybody was affected one way or another by COVID. But so I had to make a decision. Okay, do I want to come back and play football, or do I move on from Bethel and move into another season of life? And so I went through difficult months of having hard conversations with, Coach Dornbush and I talked about it. Coach Swan, who's in the crowd right now, we had a lot of conversations around it. And for me in my situation, I felt like it was making more sense for me to move on. And God had something beyond Bethel football for me with where I'm at right now. But I wouldn't trade my experience at Bethel football for anything. We have an amazing program. We have a lot of success, and every year there's a lot of expectations, but more so than that, you're impacted as a man, right? And you're changed, and your face grows so much from amazing coaches like Dornbush and Coach Swan. And so I think the biggest thing I got out of Bethel football is, the success on the field, but also maturing as a man and maturing in my faith as well.
How did the civil unrest or racial conflict to the north side blowing up in the last how do those things affect connections?
So the question is, with the violence and some of the civil unrest in the city, how does that affect the ministry or us or our students? So I think, and Sam kind of touched on it a little bit. Some of the things you see on the news, like they're real, those things are happening, but they're such a small part of what's happening in the city. But it's what they want to focus on in the news. Like if you go to the city, work with students, get to know what's happening. There's so much good, so many good kids, so much good going on. And then there is this small components of what might be happening on the north side or with shootings. But it's like, that's all they talk about on the news, and they want to make it sound like it's a war zone. But it does affect our students, obviously growing up in an environment where those things are going on, or having family or friends who, unfortunately at times get shot or get arrested or things like that. So it definitely is something that, we're sensitive to with the students we work with and have to be. I had a student just like a month ago who had a family member who was shot and killed. And so then it's the next day, me and him are sitting and having a dinner and praying. And just trying to pour into his heart. He's a freshman in high school, trying to process that, trying to process through what happened and why it happened. And, like, just not an easy thing to walk through. So it's definitely affects us. It affects the students we work with. And it's something that, but even Sam will tell you, and I say it all the time, like, I'll tell the Bethel guys in the training, it'll be funny because you'll step in and start getting to know kids and be like, oh, wow, they're just kids. Like, they have girl problems and homework and football practice. And like, they're it's a lot more similar than you would think from what you see on the news, from what maybe your perceptions are before you step in. But yeah, they're just goofy kids, and they're at times growing up in hard environments at home or hard environments in their community, but at the end of the day, they're just kids. And so it ends up being a lot more similar than sometimes people think from ministry.
Might be kind of a tough question, but today's society, have you guys encountered any athletes that are gay or struggle with sexual identity, and how do you work with them?
The question is, have we encountered any athletes who struggle with or are gay or homosexual, and how do we handle that, right? I have not encountered that. And
I have not either, personally, no.
yeah, so a lot of which, yeah, we just haven't had encountered that much. Kyle, you encountered that?
No, I have not.
Kyle's on Zoom, so it's a good question though. Yeah, so.
Do you see an impact on the families of these kids in your ministry?
Yeah, so definitely, I know the students that, the question was, do we see an impact on the families of the students we're ministering to? And I'd say definitely. I know for me, like the students who are in my small group, who I meet with every week and get a chance to sit down with and do life with, they've been in our homes and I've been in their homes, and you get to know their family, and you get to, their family hears about you because you're a big part of, one of my guys, Deshaun, I go to his house and his sisters have heard about me, and his mom, because he's talking about, this coach who I get to hang out with and do life with. And so it's definitely, you have an impact and you have influence because, after they see you pouring into their son and caring for their son, and it matters, it really matters to them. And oh, it's so great that you're around, taking them out and keeping them out of the streets. And so it's definitely, I don't know if you've had that experience, but it's definitely been it takes time. Like first, okay, I'm just starting to get to know this kid, but then eventually he's at our house a bunch, and I go over and pick him up, and so I going to the house sometimes to wake him up because he was supposed to be up an hour ago, but yeah, you get to know the family, and he even as you're talking life, he's sharing about his family. And so like one of my kids, I've been challenging him like to use his influence as an older brother. How do you use your influence to your younger sisters to lead them in the right way? So he'll come and report. He'll like, oh, my sister got in a fight at school. So I'm like, all right, how are we like make a plan? You got to be, staying on her and keeping track and trying to help her out with that. So do you have anything on that? Or
I echo everything you said.
yeah, so yeah, it definitely gets there. It takes a little time, but it gets there.
You guys have chosen to live in or near that north side of Minneapolis, which is for many of us kind of a daunting thought. How has that played out for you and your family? And does that have an impact on your ministry?
Yeah, so the question is, I remember this time. So we live right on the border of North Minneapolis and Brooklyn Center. So really near a lot of the students we work with. A lot of students from Patrick Henry are right around us. So the question is, choosing to live there, has that had an impact on our ministry and our family? And I would say definitely. So for some of the students, the expectation that they have of us when we come in is, oh, we're some white guy from the suburbs, who's, maybe not a great view of who we are and what our agenda is at the beginning. So it sometimes breaks down some of those barriers a little faster. You're like, oh no, I live right down the street. They're like, oh, you're part of our community. You're part of, our neighborhood. When our neighborhood is experiencing loss, there was a couple students who were shot and killed at Patrick Henry this school year. And so the community mourns that, the school mourns that, you feel it, the administration is talking about it, and we're a part of that community. And so we get a chance to kind of walk through that with them. And so that definitely creates a little bit, breaks down barriers a little faster, creates trust a little faster, where they understand there's a little bit more skin in the game maybe. So they understand your heart, like, oh, he's here for the right, he really wants to be here. He really wants to be a part of this community. He wants, like, he's not just some outsider who's coming in to tell us how to live our lives. So definitely has a huge impact.
How about your family?
For my family, yeah, I mean, it's been great. I know we feel very blessed with the home we have. We have actually got a split level home. So we live on the first floor with my wife and our daughters. And then on this lower level is Kyle and Jen. So we get to do ministry together with FCA, and then also get to live together, which is a ton of fun, and do life together, do meals together. But we definitely feel blessed by our home. I feel like God put us in a place where, like, he wanted us to be. We have some amazing blessings. We're right by a lake, which is a huge blessing. But we're also right by the city, which is a huge blessing, and really close to the high schools. So we feel very blessed to be there.
What's your typical daily schedule?
The question was, what is my typical daily schedule? So it kind of fluctuates throughout the year. Obviously with the fall, really, really busy with football stuff. During non-football season, oftentimes I'd be at non-COVID, so we're finding some rare times here, but be at high schools as much as possible. I'd be at a high school in the morning, potentially during lunchtime at a lunch period, mentoring students, even potentially in a classroom during the day, helping tutor students, and then definitely at a high school after school, at a weight room, at a practice, hanging out with athletes, hanging out with coaches. And then obviously, football in the fall takes up a lot of time. In the summer, with no school, it's more focused on camps. We have camps throughout the summer that we, are helping to run and have bringing students to, as well as the football programs we work with in the summer have summer contact days. They're allowed 11 practices. So I'm jumping between I'm trying to get to all 11 of Henry and North and Edison and Brooklyn. So I'm trying to jump to everybody's practices and get a chance to, help out or minister or whatever's needed. So, one day I'd go to North's practice and they were short coaches. Like, all right, you help out today. So I'm coaching one day and then helping in the weight room the next, and, kind of whatever is needed. So.
You don't have any trouble getting on campus, just hanging out on campus, like you mentioned, going at lunch and stuff.
Yeah, so the question is, you don't have any trouble hanging out, getting on campus, hanging out on campus. So that's a trust thing. Obviously, it takes time. Like the first time I show up, it's like, okay, who is he? What's his agenda? What's it? But eventually you get to a point where you've built trust. Obviously for Kyle, he coaches at North Minneapolis High School. So when he shows up, it's like, well, I coach here. I know a bunch of the kids here. There's a lot of, for me, it takes a little bit more time because I don't coach there, but I've been around now where it's like, okay, I know the principal really well at Henry. I know the principal really well at North. I know, some of the security guards. I know the coaches. I know. So you show up and, you're received because they know you, they know your heart. And there's that trust to allow you to come in and, walk the halls and come in and hang out. And so good question though.
How do you handle being a coach of football at Bethel and then trying to be at the high schools at the same time?
The question was, how do you handle being a coach at Bethel and being at the high schools at the same time? So full-time with FCA. I'm part-time at Bethel coaching football. So Bethel takes up a lot of time in the fall, obviously with practice, with training camp, with games on Saturdays. So in the fall, it's harder to make that balance. You know, I'll be at schools maybe in the morning, but then I'll be at Bethel the rest of the day. And then during the school year, it's easier. It's easier to be able to make that balance because there's less going on at Bethel. I don't have any responsibilities to have to be there. And then we have spring football for Bethel, so that takes up a little more time. And then the summer, you know, so it is a balance, but it kind of goes through seasons of really busy and then, okay, there isn't really much that I need to be doing at Bethel. So I can be at the high schools a bunch and, you know, then at Bethel to hang out the volunteers. So.
Everyone's probably wondering what's Bethel's record going to be. This year, you feel good about the season.
15-0. Get a national championship. What do you think, Swan? 15-0, Swan. Swan calls it.
Have there been any serendipities with the Bethel football guys where you've seen their growth in their even maturity or even springboarding into ministry because of their involvement? As you mentioned, you're mentoring, but you're also being mentored, or you're learning and drawing closer to the Lord. Has there been any stories that way?
Yeah, definitely. I know for me, it's two-sided. And you see it with the Bethel guys. They're getting what they're receiving and what they're able to learn and get from this. I mean, it's just as much important as the ministry to the students. Because the students, yeah, I need a loving, caring adult in my life to be able to walk me through some things. But for a Bethel guy, and for me, because I grew up here and I went to Wheaton College. You know, I didn't have a lot of experience in the city. So when I first started FCA, first moved into inner city Chicago, started doing ministry, there was a lot I had to learn. You know, a lot of, like we talked about, preconceptions about what the city is and, you know, what city kids are like that I had to work through on my own, you know, and learn through. So it's a huge blessing for these guys to be able to step in, to be able to, especially with where our world's at today and some of the racial things going on. It's like understanding each other and being able to be in the same spaces where we can each hear each other and learn from each other is huge. It's hugely important, not just for these high school kids, for the Bethel guys. So definitely seeing a ton of growth from them. And then, yeah, getting a chance to do ministry. Like Sam has been doing ministry, been mentoring students for the last 2 years now. So for him, it's like an internship, you know, a huge experience where, okay, is this something I want to do? Like you're alluding to. And we have had some guys who've talked about, you know, maybe this is something I want to do, whether it's FCA staff or something else, to minister in the city or, you know, even other places. But we've had some of our volunteers have definitely shown an interest in, hey, maybe this is what I want to do with my life. I want to, you know, I feel called to, I feel passionate about getting to work with these students, and maybe it's something that's, you know, in my future. So now I'm just waiting for them to graduate so I can grab them on staff. Yeah.
That's how you got Kyle.
Yeah, that's how I got Kyle. He was coming out and helping out in Chicago, and you know, obviously had a heart for it, and you know, especially because for him driving in from Wheaton, it was like an hour drive each way, but had a heart for it. And then when he was graduating, I, you know, talked him into coming up here and living with us and doing ministry. So, and he doesn't regret it, right, Kyle?
Right.
He says right.
Well, in the years you had some of your guys from Chicago here with us, what can you say, how are they doing in your contact with them?
Yeah, I keep in touch a lot with some of the Chicago guys. Some of them come to visit. You know, they'll stay at our house for a weekend or a week. I've gone down to visit a few times. You know, it's like with Sam, with what I was saying with these are, I mean, it's a relationship, it's a friendship, it'll continue on. So a lot of the students that I got to mentor in Chicago, we still have friendships, we still have relationships. So I'll call them and catch up and see how they're doing. And, you know, some of them are at college and see how college is going and how football is going. But yeah, some are doing well and some are not. That's just the reality. You know, and but it's a blessing that I still get to be a part of that journey for them. Like, I mean, just last week, I was on the phone with one of my students who's, I mean, walked through a lot this last year, a lot of hard things, you know, just encouraging him, talking to him, praying with him, and getting a chance to, okay, what's the next steps? How can I help? You know, and we've been able to be a part of that for a lot of those students. So that's been a blessing. So Dante is one of the students who I mentored when I was in Chicago. He was a student at El High School. He's at Wheaton College. He has a 4.0 GPA, so way better than I was. I mean, just beyond. But he's just like, it's been cool to see. It's just like this God-given genius, like brilliance, because, you know, with the environment he grew up in and then the schooling he received, it's like, you should not be, but he got into Wheaton. He got a full ride, so he's going for free. He has a 4.0 GPA. He's studying abroad this fall at Oxford. So he's one of the ones that's doing very, very well. So it's been fun to kind of be a small part of that, being able to part of his story, and excited to see what God does with his future. But yeah, a lot of the students we've gotten a chance to keep up with, and you know, like I said, some doing really, really well, some struggling, and some in between.
So Pastor Tucker shared a verse with us this morning that I'm going to take out of context. He said, for physical training is of some value, but godliness has value for all things, holding promise for both present life and the life to come. You have a good balance between both. So my question is, how much can you bench press?
The question is, how much can I bench press? Right now, like this morning, I don't know. That's a good question. I don't want to say, because Catherine's gonna tease me for the rest of my life. The last time I bench pressed heavy, I got 300 pounds. That was
I've been lifting regimentedly and structured for the last 4 years, so I'll be totally transparent. I haven't benched in probably 5 months. So I don't know. Dornbush would be benching way more than I am right now, but yeah, I haven't found my way to a bench press in some time.
all righty. I don't know how we end it.
I'll end it, yeah. All right, I just want to thank you all for coming today, and thank you for everyone joining us on Zoom. Next week, we will have Peter and Nancy Cole here from Scalpel of the Cross. They are in Peru, I believe. And yeah, it's at 10 to 11 next Sunday. If you want to join on Zoom as well, I think it's still available. Yes, and we just want to thank Jordan and Sam for coming here today and sharing with us today. Thank you. I find it really exciting because I was on a mission trip with them, both Jordan and Catherine, back in 2013. And so I feel like I was at a little bit at the beginning, seeing this passion for helping inner city students and in like the realm of sports. We really saw that grow in Chicago. So I kind of feel a little proud mama, even though I'm not a mama, but that's fine. All right, so I'm just gonna pray and then everyone can go on with their days. Pray with me, please. Dear Lord, we just thank you for this opportunity that we could come and gather again in this room and hear about our impact partners doing such great work here in our own city. Lord, we just thank you for Jordan and Catherine and Sam, that they are spending their time and their days pouring into these students. And Lord, we just thank you for all of the opportunities that have been opened at North High School and at Bethel University. We just thank you for all these connections that are being made and these lifelong friendships that are being built with you in mind. And we just pray for all the students this summer, that you'll keep them all safe. And we just pray that your will be just shown around North Minneapolis and Bethel University and here at Calvary. Lord, we love you. We thank you for